Hi, Jaydev. Yeah, right. Okay. So generally the class should start by 6:35, but these days I am having some checks before I come to my office. So yeah, that's the reason why it is slightly getting delayed. Yeah. Okay, guys. So let us start with our agenda, right? So today's agenda is very simple. Uh, Let me open my notes. Right. Okay. Databases in Azure. Okay. So even though my title over here speaks about Azure, but it might not be really on Azure, it can be on any cloud. What are the different kinds of databases which we have on Azure, right? So basically, what are the different things which you would see, you would observe? What is you might come across some terms like managed, unmanaged, right? We will get into all of that. Okay, but let us try to understand what are the different kinds of data that is basically being stored. Okay, right? So databases in Azure is still my word, but I am trying to speak about not only SQL kind of databases. Okay, it can be any form of data that can be basically stored on the cloud. So in Azure, basically we have a huge way, or any cloud for that matter has a lot of ways with dealing data. Okay, so for example, if you look at Azure, calls it as its own data platform. Okay, with loads and loads of tools in that. Okay, right? So for example, any cloud. Okay, even though this class is about Azure, let me try to tell that we'll have. Let me write it. Azure supports the following in the world of databases. Okay, I'll come. What do I mean by that natively? Alright, so they call something called as SQL Server. This is an obvious choice, right? Azure obviously will support SQL Server, or let me put it in this way: relational data. Okay, so relational database. So in relational database, they natively support SQL Server, and they support MySQL. Okay, and they support Postgres. You can ask me, I don't see Oracle over here? Yes, yeah, Oracle is not natively supported. Okay, what is that? That means I'll come back at the moment. But for now, let us try to understand what are the different product lines which Microsoft has, right? So for SQL Server, they sell in two options. One is you can have your SQL Server on virtual machines. This is one way of dealing with it. The second thing is they have something called as Azure SQL Database. So my reminder again, there is no need for you to worry about what these things are, and that is what we are going to learn anyway. Okay? And MySQL, this is Azure Database for MySQL. Postgres, Azure Database for Postgres. So let us assume that you are working in an organization which uses any of these databases, right? Relational databases. Then you can directly make them work on Azure because Azure directly supports SQL Server, directly supports MySQL, directly supports Postgres. Yeah, you need to get into one more thing, which is versioning, okay, which you will be doing. But at this moment, let us refrain ourselves from version, okay. But when it comes to NoSQL databases, okay, so for the companies which are using Mongo and Cassandra and all of that stuff, Azure tries to give you something called as Cosmos. Azure tries to give you something called as Cosmos. Am I clear on this? Right? So, if you want to understand what are the different product lines which Microsoft has with respect to your databases, okay, we have a SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, right? And then for NoSQL databases, they have something called as Azure Cosmos, right? And when it comes to analytics, okay, analytics is something which we don't deal in this classroom, but still I'll write down the product lines. This is for the people who come from the Hadoop backgrounds and all of that stuff. If you come from BI and analytics, okay, analytics support on Azure. So, okay, so, right, they have a data warehouse, okay, which Azure calls as Azure Synapse. So, for example, if your company is using Teradata, if your company is using Informatica and all of that stuff, they can basically deal with, okay, right, Azure Synapse. Okay, let me write down the full name. Analytics. All right. Okay. Now, Apache Spark, kind of popular in the data world, in the analytics world, right? Azure calls it as Azure Databricks. Okay. A fully managed Hadoop and Spark system. If your company is basically doing it, then we have something called as HD Insight. We have something called as HD Insight. Okay. Obviously, if your company wants some predictive analysis, okay. As I'm trying to tell this again, this is just I'm giving it for information. We don't deal with analytics in this course. I'm just giving you. Azure has a stream which is called as machine learning. Okay, right. Azure has, okay, for parallel analytics. Okay, no support or no limit size. Okay, no limits data lake support, and for that they have two platforms. One they call it as data lake store, and they have one more thing which, sorry, I think I've typed out. Data lake store and data lake analytics. And at the last, the data integration service, which we basically call as data factory. So, when you deal with Azure, okay, and if you are come from the huge data world, if you ask me what are the different product lines that Microsoft supports, that Microsoft basically supports, when it comes to data or databases, right? Then this is basically what it is all about. Okay, so when it comes to data warehouses, what are the different solutions which it has? When it comes to NoSQL, what is the support which it has, right? So there are many things that basically come down over here, all right? So this is the whole product line. Now, let us come down to our problem, okay? So what is that you would be doing? Okay, you would be doing in this, right? There are two things. If you belong to this world, obviously you will be doing what each platform does. For example, if you are a big data engineer and you know how Hadoop works, so obviously you will be working on HD Insight, okay, where you will have where you will organize your Hadoop stuffs, okay. But here, when it comes from the Azure side of the world, we also need to understand, right, what Azure does. Okay, right. So what we need to understand in Azure or any cloud for that matter. Tomorrow if you go to the AWS or Google Cloud and when you learn about data factories or anything, okay, while learning, okay, there are two modes over here. Okay, one is if you are a data engineer by any chance. So that means if you are a DBA, if you are already a SQL database administrator, you are a ETL developer, you are a big data engineer, whatever it is. So if you are a data engineer, when I say that, that is what it means, right? And then if you are a cloud administrator. So these are the only two things which you need to understand. Okay, if you are a data engineer, what you are supposed to do. If you are a cloud administrator, what you are supposed to do. If you are a data engineer, right, obviously, you need to deal with the application. Okay. So for example, I want to do something in Hadoop, you should know how that has to be done in Hadoop. I want to do something in my database, I should know how do I administer that. Okay, so I should know all of that. But along with that, you should also know what can Azure give to you. What is this? What can Azure give to you? Or if I want to reframe the sentence, what does Azure do for you? Okay. So for example, Azure can automate certain things. Alright. So if you are a cloud administrator, just understand how to create and manage. Okay. The data platform asked. So you are not getting into how it works. You are just trying to create and then you are trying to manage. And the second thing is you need to understand, okay, the boundaries of what Azure provides and what has to be done by your enterprise. So the answer over here would be, okay, backups. Do I need to take the backups or Azure will take the backups for me? Right? So when I am basically speaking about replication, okay, I have a database in one region, I want the database to be in another region. Do I have to do that or will Azure have to do it for me? So you have to know these boundaries. So whenever you are learning an SQL or anything in cloud, the one thing which you need to understand is if you are already an expert in that, something like data engineer, you obviously need to work on that. And along with that, you also need to understand what is that cloud is giving to you. What is that cloud is giving to you. Right? If you are a cloud administrator, you should basically know how to create, right, or manage whatever platform that has been expected from you. As simple as that. Am I clear on this? Okay, guys. So when we learn in this course, we will understand for each of the service, what is the support that Microsoft Azure gives us. Okay, right. And here, okay, for doing all of this, okay, I might do this in a repetition world again and again. You need an Azure free tier account. You need an Azure free tier account. So how to create? I am giving a link over here. Go through that. Okay. Right. And now one thing to notice now, due to this, all of this, what do you call, lot of load increased in Azure or cloud platforms, there are certain things which are not or which are taken away from free account users, right? So those issues with respect to database, we will deal them. For example, whenever you are creating virtual machines, some of the people are getting issues. The sizes are not shown, right? Or something like that. So Microsoft is dealing with that because this is an unprecedented load on every cloud now. All the organizations suddenly who are not even thinking of cloud due to this pandemic or due to this lockdown have suddenly moved to cloud and started working their workloads from there because they need not manage or at least watch out for servers. Due to that, there are some hiccups. Okay, we will deal with that hiccups as and when they come. Okay, so one hiccup is, okay, you might be asked, okay, to convert your subscription. Okay, don't worry about what these things are. We'll worry about it later, right? So for today, the only job of yours is try to create an account. And there are some of the people who have came to me and said that, sir, we have created an account. Yeah, you said that it is free, but still I get the bill. Yes, you will get the bill because you are using whatever is not free. Yeah. So basically, some of the people, what they do is they create the machines, they forget to delete the machines. Okay, I would refrain the users not doing that. Not doing that. Okay. You cannot avoid billing for something which you have used. You can, Microsoft will certainly waive off if there is something wrong with the billing. Okay, right? So there are other ways to get away from this, but today I don't want to reveal that. Okay, right. Now, let us try to navigate and play around Azure Database Support. And before that, I would try to speak about what is managed and unmanaged. This is the only thing which I'll speak about. Then we will play around Azure to understand what are the different databases that are lying around there. And then we will obviously basically get into the actual stream of the stuff. So today I just want to understand what is there. Okay, in Azure, when you think of data, we have some databases and we have some analytics. And as I said, these are natively supported or these are managed by Azure. And there is something which is unmanaged. What is managed and what is unmanaged? Okay, so the difference between managed and unmanaged is who is responsible for data. Okay, so in managed databases, okay, who is responsible for data Base. Okay. So I'm quite sure that we know what this is. So if you go to any server, so generally we'll have the way how we deal with databases is, okay. Uh, okay. We'll take some server. Okay. On top of the server, okay. On top of the server, right? So we will install our database platform. Okay. So I'm using SQL Server icon. You can take anything for that. Okay. So okay. So we will install database, and then on top of this, okay, we will have our how should I represent the data? Let me see if I can find something better than that. No, the earlier ones were much better. Yeah. So on top of that, we'll have our database. Okay. Let me do one thing, sir. I think we need to stretch a little bit more. Okay, right. So we'll have our database, and on top of this database, one minute, I'm sorry for this. Yeah. So if you look at the steps, our steps are this, as simple as this. We'll take a server. On that server, we'll install SQL Server, and then we will create a database, and then on that database, we will insert our, this is application data is stored. Okay. So here I can basically put this. Okay. So if you look at the steps, okay, so find the right server. I'm quite sure everyone agrees to this. Okay. Install the right version. Right version of database or DBMS. Okay. And then create the database, and then manage the data. Okay. So here you might have your okay. I'll put some roles. You will have your DBA, and you will have your general users. Okay. You will have your other users. Okay. Right. Do you agree this is what you do in your office? If you take any database around any planet, okay, or anywhere around the world, this is what we would basically do, right? Write server could be Windows or could be Linux. Yeah. Now, when I say managed and unmanaged, the difference lies between for what you are the owner and for what Azure is the owner. That is where the managed and unmanaged comes from. Okay? Right? So, let me basically take a screenshot of this. Right. So, let me save this image. We are in Azure Databases. Let me create a new folder called as Images and Azure SQL 1. Okay, right. Preview. /images/ Azure SQL 1 .png. Let me look at casing because casing is extremely important. Yes, I'm right. Okay, right. Now, okay, fine. This is generally what happens in your array. Now let me remove this stuff. Okay, you will have. I'm not calling this user as this. I am calling this user as DBA, and then I'll be using Azure icon. Or Azure logo. This gives more sense. Yeah. So we have Microsoft Azure. Okay, right. Fine. Now, for this user, for Azure, I'll try to use the blue color. Okay. And for our responsibilities, let me use the orange color. Right. Okay. I think for this it is blue. And for this is it orange. That is my legend. And now generally what is that you manage? Okay. Right. In the case of managed database, you are owner for this. This is what you look up to. Okay. And when it comes to basically Azure will manage this. Manage. Okay. So SQL Server backups can be given to Azure. Okay. Server going wrong, Azure's headache. SQL Server not working, Azure's headache. Okay. Something wrong with your application data, it is your headache. Am I clear on this? Okay. Krishna Reddy, difference between DBMS and databases. DBMS is a software that manages databases. Databases is where we store the data. Okay. Guys, am I clear with this? Yeah. So when you try to tell that I am dealing with managed databases or I am trying to deal with something called as managed, basically what is happening around us, Microsoft is doing a lot of our job, which we generally do, right? So, fine. Let me take an image of it. Okay, and one more thing is, don't take this for granted. There might be many more areas which Azure might come into. So Azure's graph I have drawn only till here. But actually in some parts of over here also we can give them responsibilities. I'm just giving you a vague idea of it. Okay. Then approximate idea of it. Right. So managed database. Okay. Right. Then unmanaged database. Okay. So if it is unmanaged, what is that I need to worry about? Okay. Right. Finding the right server is still your responsibility, but the whole point is, okay, Azure only manages okay this to some extent. Okay, but you as an admin, okay, you are supposed to manage, okay, some portions of this. Okay, I'll put it in this way. Oh, sorry. I think I need to change the color. You need to manage this. So for example, what will this user do on the server? Who will patch the server? Again, your responsibility. What Microsoft can do is it can give you the server with some operating system inbuilt. And after that updates to that version, taking the backup again, right? So this is you managing, and this is, oh sorry, this is Azure manages, and this is, when I say you, it might not be you, it is your organization, right? Your organization need to manage all of this. This is what is an unmanaged database. Okay. So, and here one thing could happen is, okay, let me do only one thing over here. All right. So to set the perspective straight, yeah. Am I clear on this? So if it is SQL Server, you need not go with this model at all. But if it is other database, probably you might need to get into this. I'll answer your questions. First, let me give a broader note of what a managed and an unmanaged is. Okay. So let me save this and let me call this as, all right. This becomes unmanaged database. Okay. In a managed version, is it possible to upgrade versioning? That is all Microsoft's responsibility. You need not worry about it. In a managed database, you will always work on latest version of a database. And then basically, we'll get into specifics. I'm giving you a very generic or a 5,000 feet overview of idea so that you can understand the terms, right? So basically what I'm trying to tell is if you go with managed services, you will get lot of advantages. Yeah. So and one more thing obviously is you are giving more more responsibilities to Azure also. Some companies also look at it cons. Why should my database be managed by some other company? Yeah, that could be a mindset. But the whole point is, yeah, the amount of work which we as an organization do on a managed database is very much less when compared to what we do for a unmanaged database. That is exactly what it is. Alright? Okay. Now, for my organization, if they have DB2, okay, I have said in Azure's data platform, is there DB2? Rutvik, in the list which I have written in here, are you seeing any DB2? No. So what is the option which you are left with? You have to go with unmanaged database. That's it. That's it. You got it. Yeah. Okay. DB2 is not supported on AWS also. Okay. But what Microsoft or Amazon will basically do is, right? They will give you virtual machines with Linux or Windows, and you install DB2 on your own, and then you manage it for yourself. That is what they can. Right. Okay. Right, sir. Now let me log in into Azure. Okay. So today we'll be playing around. As I said, we'll just stick to the plan. We'll just play around with Azure. I'm logging in into my Azure account. Okay. So let me go into here. Okay. This is the home page, and in here there is something called as all services. Okay. So I'm giving the screenshot. Okay. So first click over here once you log in into Azure account and all services. Okay. So okay. Right. So this is whole about images. I'll be just putting you a series of images so that you can look into what this is. All right. Now, once you go into this all services, I'm already in all services. The first thing which I want you to go do is I want you to go with free. If you type free, you will understand what are the services that are free for you. Okay. I'll write the image numbers later. And now if you click on free services, okay. So, right. You will have sections like which are free for 12 months. Okay. Here let me write this one and this one because this is related to what we are learning right now. Okay. Right. Okay. So right now, what is free with respect to SQL database? You can create an SQL database of 250 GB. Cosmos database, you can create a 5 GB of Cosmos database. Okay. These are the services which are free for 12 months. Okay. You can go on and on over here. And there are some always free services also. Scroll down so that you can see a lot of things. Okay. So I would recommend this is the first thing which you would do. Okay. Go to all services and then type free. Okay. Right. Now, let me come to databases. This is our area. Okay. This is what we want to stay focused on. Okay. So, in databases, okay, there are many areas. So, we need to understand these things. We need to understand these things. Okay. So, this is our basic agenda. So, what we would be able to learn after this few days is, okay, whatever is in preview mode, I might not speak about it because they are still not released yet. Okay. But all the other modes, we will at least understand what they are and how do you basically deal with them. Okay. And how to create them and what will Azure manage and what is the stuff which you have to manage. Am I clear on this? So, this is the stuff, right? 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let me look at preview, how this page looks like. so that we are all clear whether it is looking good, bad, or ugly. Yeah, I think that should set the perspective. Okay, right. Okay, fine. Now, one more thing. There is one more interesting thing over here which is called as, okay, let me go to all and then search something called as marketplace. Okay. So this is for non-native areas. Okay. So all services, or let me put it in this way. So since we have just now started, let me go to all services. Yeah. And show this. Are you seeing this marketplace? Yeah. Okay. So these are the areas which you might end up using Azure. I'm just showing you on the UI, right? So in the marketplace, you can go and search for Oracle. Okay. Right. I've stored this. Okay. Okay. I think you are seeing the results. Okay. This whole area is what it is. Okay. So, 9. Or let me put it in this way. IBM. Okay. DB2. Okay. I'm not sure whether DB2 is present or not because I've never looked at. But let me put this. Yes. SAP HANA. Okay. Okay. I'm just giving you an overview. Okay. So if it is not natively supported, then probably what are the different chances which you have? SAP HANA, and these are all the results. Okay. And this is all unmanaged stuff for you. This is all unmanaged stuff for you. Am I clear on this? Right? So I would hope that in majority of the cases when it comes to UI, or at least when it comes to creating, you will never do more than this. Okay? Alright. So let me give some space between the images. Right. Okay. Right. And one more thing is, whatever nodes which you are trying to look at, this I have shown, said in almost all the classes I speak about it. Okay. You can go to Azure Classroom, and here you will be seeing a new section on the top, which is basically called as databases, and you will be seeing today's date over here. So I'm just sharing that information on the chat. Sharing that information on the chat. Am I clear on this, guys? Right? So I think we had a very simple discussion today. What are the different databases that are supported on Azure? Or when Azure speaks about databases or support of some data modules, then what is this all about? Okay, right? So basically, what is managed and unmanaged services, and then we have just played around some of the UI options which are basically available. And I'm completely aware that UI is not the only option. UI is not the only option, right? Yeah. Good, sir. So I think that is what I had. If you have any questions, you can go ahead. I think I think I should be able to answer it. I pasted the link in the chat. I am doing it over here also. This notes will be updated by 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock Indian time, I think you should be able to see the notes. Yes, sir. For you, it is yes. Okay. I'll put it in this way. So, to understand today's concept, did you think that do you need to know much knowledge? No. The only classes which I expect you guys to go through is there will be a cloud essential classes and DevOps essential classes that will be shared by Satish. Please go through them. Those are all recordings of 9 days. Okay. And those classes natively means which Azure manages. Yes, sir. If you go into essential series, okay, the notes of all of those essential series is present over here. Cloud essentials and DevOps essentials. Please do that. In managed services, is it possible to put firewalls and security? That is all possible. But you will have finished products there. There will be no raw products there. You will have finished products. Or I'll put it in this way, Maithar. It will be better than what you generally expect. What is the difference between SQL database and MySQL database? There is nothing called as SQL database. There is an SQL server and MySQL. SQL server is a database management system which is supported by Microsoft. MySQL is something which some company had done it and now Oracle has purchased it. What are managed and unmanaged disks in Azure? Okay. First thing is we are not speaking about disks concept, so I would refrain from answering this question. But still, if you have understood my managed and unmanaged concept as such, the amount of or the responsibility which Azure has in anything which is managed is more than unmanaged. That is a generic note. Today you are speaking about managed disk and unmanaged disk. Tomorrow you might be asked me about some other service which is managed and unmanaged. Managed means Azure will do a lot of things for you. Unmanaged means you have to do a lot of things for you for getting that service working on the cloud. Okay. I can't go more than that into that topic, Praveen, at this moment because our focus is database. Okay. When will you start Jenkins? 7:45 you will have a class where we will be starting Git. Okay. And I would expect that to know Jenkins, you have to be very strong at Git and you have to attend that DevOps class also. In the mail which you received, for today's link, you should have a link of Jenkins also. Is Azure DevOps covered as part of this course? As part of Azure, you are expected to attend DevOps classes whenever Jenkins is happening and whenever Docker is happening. And in that, we will be speaking about Jenkins as well as Azure DevOps. Sir, please go through content. You couldn't find IBM DB2 on Azure. Organizations with DB2 will not be able to. Can't you install DB2 on a Linux machine, Rutvik? Can I take a Linux machine and install DB2? Yes. So do it for yourself. That's how it works. Yeah. So we'll take a Linux VM and on that we'll install a DB2 and probably you will then start using it. That's how it works. Any other questions? Right. So I think at 7:40 we will have Jenkins class and I will expect everyone in this room to attend that class even though you are learning only Azure because Jenkins and Azure DevOps will be expected from you.